If you want to look at probably the most sophisticated money launderer in history, he's currently a guest of the US government, but wherever SBF is staying. He was eventually caught. He was not caught for laundering tens of billions of dollars around. He wasn't even under suspicion for laundering tens of billions of dollars around. There's many other ways to launder money. You can do things like let's say I establish a shell corporation and I buy a piece of real estate in New York City, and then I rent that real estate out to people and I collect a stream of rents from that to a totally legitimate person. This money is clean. And the money that I put into the system to buy this on behalf of the shell corporation, I'm just going to wire it to a lawyer, and the lawyer is going to answer any question from the bank with, I don't know where it came from. I don't have to tell you. I'm a lawyer. It's a real estate transaction. What do you want from me? In one sense, that's money laundering. If the original money was the proceeds of crime, in another sense, that's how every real estate transaction goes down at those scales. I think I would be really good at money laundering.
The drug game is bigger and faster than you imagine. For more than a decade, Mexican cartels have become drug managers. And today, their invisible hand indirectly negotiates and coordinates the different gangs of the continent towards a single objective: the shadowy sale of narcotics. The game no longer starts in Mexico, but in South America, specifically here in the vast fields of Colombia and the jungles of Peru and Bolivia. These three locations produce the most coca, a crop more precious than gold. They transport this treasure by secret roads to Ecuador and Venezuela, two key routes for the drug's destination. From there, the shipments are sent by aircrafts to Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Mexico. From that moment on, the drugs follow different land and sea routes to the west, center, and east of the United States, the main consumer of the product. The sophisticated coordination of this entire process meant a business of close to $33 billion for Mexican cartels in 2018. Since then, the figure has only increased, and with so much money on the table, the cartels have ventured into a new game on a global scale: money laundering. Today, US authorities are overwhelmed trying to track the money coming from the cartel's illicit businesses. And every day they ask the same question over and over again. How do cartels launder $70 million a day without a trace? For agents of the Drug Enforcement Administration, tracking money laundering should be a simple task. This institution has practically unlimited resources, and although its operations are directed from the United States, its eyes are in every corner of the planet. Each of its investigations uses the highest technology and has the greatest human talent to monitor illicit activities. But none of this is enough when it comes to catching Mexican cartels. In the past, when a drug lord was captured, the head of a precarious structure that depended on the leader to operate was cut off. Nowadays, things have changed drastically, especially in Mexico, home to more than 150 organized crime groups. In 2016, the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, Joaquin Guzman Loera, known also as El Chapo Guzman, was captured for the third time. A year later, he was extradited to the United States. This operation required enormous joint efforts between numerous agencies. They all believed that this was the coup de grace, the end of the Sinaloa cartel. But 8 years later, the reality is devastating. The capture of El Chapo Guzman did not dismantle the cartel. On the contrary, the benefits of this group have only increased. This is due to the simple fact that the internal structure of the cartel remains intact and operational. From the person in charge of selling and distributing the drug to those who direct the money laundering structure, no one stops, and the wheel of crime remains unchanged. This poses a difficult task for the authorities. According to data from Science magazine, organized crime is the 5th largest employer in Mexico and has managed to attract more than 175,000 Mexicans to the network. With such a volume of those involved, detecting the path that money follows is equivalent to finding a needle in a haystack. The cartels continue to expand, their activities continue to grow, and in the process, they erase their tracks as if they had never existed. All of this has forced anti-drug agencies to consider new perspectives, and in the process, they have discovered a larger problem. The money that cartels receive no longer depends solely on drugs. Finding the new origin of the money has not been a linear process for the DEA or the different institutions of the Mexican government. The Sinaloa cartel alone has a presence in 17 of the 32 states that make up the Mexican nation, and the analysis of criminal organizations have detected that 75% of this territory has the presence of some criminal group. This map provides great freedom for illicit businesses, or even for participating in those that are not even illicit. If we travel to the state of Michoacan in western Mexico, we will discover the heart of a multi-million-dollar business: avocado production. Mexico controls 60% of the world production of the so-called green gold. But in recent years, a criminal group called Los Viagras has confiscated farms from their peasant owners and has also indiscriminately logged protected forest, all in order to generate their own crops. Since then, it is estimated that about 12 criminal groups are competing in this region to become the main avocado producers. The interest they show in this product is due not only to its profitability, but also to the fact that when they sell it, they receive completely clean money that is difficult for the DEA and local authorities to trace. This way of operating is very similar to one they apply a little further north, in the state of Colima, or in Zacatecas and Durango, the largest producers of gold, silver, copper, iron, and zinc in the country. Here, companies have been forced to pay lucrative extortions to the Knights Templars and Los Zetas cartels since 2013 in exchange for their protection. But this is not their only way of operating here. Dozens of mines have been closed by the authorities due to the cartel's illegal mining, who extract resources from the depths and then send them from the ports to China without the authorities being able to do anything to stop them or to trace the income that these activities generate for the cartels. Another incredible fact that has ridiculed the North American authorities has been the cartel's sophisticated capacity in the arms trafficking business. This occurs along the entire border line, from Baja to California and Sonora to Tamaulipas. Throughout this strip, there are numerous corridors through which weapons pass from one place to another without anyone noticing. There are also powerful networks of frontmen and small groups that are responsible for maintaining a constant flow that every year leaves some 298,000 US weapons in the hands of these traffickers. However, all these businesses are small compared to the profits that human trafficking, the cartel's second main business, brings them. Every year, thousands of people from Central America, but also from Haiti, Cuba, Panama, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela undertake a kilometric journey to reach the US borders. The Via Crucis is devastating. But for several years, migrants have encountered a new invisible border, the border imposed by the cartels. In the past, migrants had to choose between venturing into the desert alone or paying for the help of coyotes who guided them to cross into the United States. Today, the reality is very different. In December 2023, about 300,000 immigrants arrived at the US borders. But before getting there, they had to pay the cartels between $1,500 if they were alone or $10,000 in the case of large families. Currently, the cartels operate from their own territory, profiting from the migrants' desire and reporting profits of close to $10 billion per year, a figure that continues to increase due to the political, economic, and social instability of the region. With such a panorama, Mexican cartels have managed to not only diversify, but also to systemize the use of violence to improve their sources of income each year. Their ambition seems to have no limits, but different international agencies have managed to stop them by tracking their banking movements. Money leaves many trails that can be followed, or at least that is what the DEA thought until they discover the cartel's powerful money laundering machinery. To launder about $70 million a day, something more sophisticated than a simple method is needed. An entire machinery is required that remains operational 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, without pauses, without stumbling, perfectly coordinated in each movement until generating a result that, in the eyes of the experts, is simply invisible. For decades, the cartels have been perfecting this method, and every time the authorities discover one of them, others are born, like a virus that takes advantage of the system and refuses to be exterminated. Despite this, different organizations against drugs and money laundering at the international level have detected some of the main sources that cartels have to clean their money, although that does not mean that they have been able to stop them. Paradoxically, the first of these does not take us to Mexico, not even to South America, but to the very heart of the United States. Here, about 38.5 million Mexicans were counted in 2020, which represents a fertile population for organized crime to operate in the very home of the agencies that pursue them. The money laundering they execute in this territory comes from remittances, the money sent by workers to their families. In 2022, Forbes magazine reported that Mexico was the second largest recipient of remittances in the world, only behind India. A year later, this country received $67 billion in remittances alone. Most of them were sent through different intermediaries, including US companies and through the international banking system itself. The processes were done methodically, without raising alarms, all clean and transparent. Or maybe not. The authorities have recorded that Minnesota was one of the states that sent the most remittances to Mexico, even more than Texas. However, Minnesota is one of the least inhabited by the Mexican population. Only 200,000 inhabitants of this nationality live here, and according to researchers' estimates, each of them would have had to deposit about $2,000 per day to explain the total number of remittances sent from this location. Naturally, the figures do not add up, and this explains why it has been possible to identify that about 7.6% of the remittances sent to Mexico are linked to money laundering associated with drug trafficking. These operations meant about $4.4 billion clean dollars from the cartels in 2022 alone. But despite the finding, the authorities are still unable to stop them. The cartels send remittances in small amounts to an infinity of Mexican accounts belonging to housewives, students, and ordinary civilians located in different states of Mexico, something that greatly hinders their tracking and detection. This same modus operandi is used in another of the cartel's favorite methods for laundering money: cryptocurrencies. The blockchain space has become an anonymous refuge for organized crime. The United Nations recently published a report indicating that about $25 billion are laundered by cartels through this route every year. To do this, they follow a well-defined pattern. Small amounts of money deposited in several bank accounts belonging to civilians, who often charge a small commission for it. Once the money is in the bank, they execute Bitcoin purchase orders, always below $7,500. Finally, the crypto assets are sent to an address on the blockchain, and from that moment on, they disappear forever. Many measures have been adopted to try to curb the use of the blockchain for money laundering, but none have been completely effective. Organized crime invests numerous resources in improving and perfecting systems capable of violating all the restrictions of banking systems and the national and international agencies themselves. Even so, the cartels have begun to feel a bit suffocated by governments and their agencies. But amid the pressures, they found a new method: Chinese laundering. Tracking money in China has been a maze with no way out for investigators. In this place, the cartels have numerous partners who use small or medium-sized companies to launder capital. Usually, Chinese networks identify owners who are experiencing economic problems in different parts of the country. These receive, voluntarily or involuntarily, suitcases with money in amounts that usually range between $30,000 and $150,000. These sums are deposited as company income. Once entered, The money is divided and sent to several commercial accounts, always in different amounts to avoid suspicions of money laundering. Finally, each of these accounts buys Mexican pesos on the international market. From that moment on, the money is clean, and with it, the cartels can already operate in US banks or anywhere else on the planet. This business is already being investigated by the Treasury Department, but the work has been so impeccable and precise that the authorities in charge have no way of preventing it or even detecting it. The paths that lead to the end of the labyrinth are becoming narrower and narrower, and when investigators finally manage to get through it, they hit a wall. In this way, organized crime has managed to evolve to become a powerful machinery that not only generates large resources annually, but is capable of laundering $70 million a day, coming from its different criminal businesses without leaving the slightest trace. The drug game has completely changed, and the authorities have not yet managed to learn the new rules. Everything seems to indicate that this is just the beginning. Only time will tell how much longer organized crime will be able to continue evading the watchful eye of the US authorities.